if you're talking about the response from FEMA,
Mm-hmm.
and FEMA is under the Department of Homeland Security, which is why Kristi Noem is a big part of things, you're 100% right. The FEMA response, preparing to deploy search and rescue teams, life-saving resources, it was immediately halted because of obstacles brought by Kristi Noem. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, whose department oversees FEMA, recently enacted a sweeping rule aimed at cutting spending. Every contract and grant over $100,000 now requires her personal sign-off before any funds can be released. So for FEMA, where disaster response costs routinely soar into the billions, that's as they have on-the-ground crews and they have contracts with them and they have systems in place, essentially, that go into place quickly. That threshold of $100,000 is ridiculous. It's so low. It's nothing. It's pennies. So the order to have all of these expenditures go over her desk has slowed response enormously. We were operating under a clear set of guidance. Lean forward, be prepared, anticipate what the state needs, and be ready to deliver it, a longtime FEMA official said. That is not as clear of an intent for this agency at the moment. They couldn't pre-position urban search and rescue crews from a network of teams stationed regionally across the country because that had to be okayed by Kristi Noem because it would cost more than $100,000.
So they can't stage in the flooding area, right? Where they need to
Exactly.
be close to the action. The flooding happened on July 4th, if I'm correct. So that was a Friday. They were not able to set up to help rescue people until Monday. So we're talking what, 3 days, 3.5 days until the rescuers were able to be at the scene. Seriously, this is when you need help from the federal government. This is why we have a federal government, because they come in and they help us when we need it. They're useless. This is what happens when you put the idiots in charge.
I think that this is true. I mean, Kim has stated it sort of bluntly, but as you know, I think
Sorry.
Kristi Noem is all show and no go. She's busy shooting some commercial with a bunch of gang members behind her or detainees in some place in El Salvador. She's busy making huge media buys on radio and television, talking about the fact that you should self-deport because we're coming to get you. She's busy with that. She's busy with the cosplay of wearing the hat and wearing the uniforms or the whatever is most favorably casting her in an official light. She's busy doing something, but she's not handling the agency in any kind of competent way. Kim can call it idiocy. I think that's not wrong. I mean, I think, as I've said to you before, I think she's a vacuous person with nothing more to say except flattery toward Donald Trump. And that's been enough to get her by. But when these people who have no real competence and are in charge of so much, DHS, and I've been screaming about this since the creation of this ridiculous Homeland Security. I hate even the word homeland. It just reminds me of World War II, Deutschland.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the idea that this massive agency could grow even more massively, and now in the new budget, it is the big beneficiary of this new bill. In addition to the billionaires, when it comes to government, chalk one up for Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. So we'll get to more of the specifics on that either later today or another time. But when we're talking about the handling of this tragedy, you have a big lumbering agency that has plenty of money that they're talking about defusing. That is to say, the FEMA part of Department of Homeland Security, they don't see the upside to that. They see it as a big bloated agency that needs to be either taken down or completely made skinny. Well, the reality is, with more and more of these climate disasters, you actually need to look at that agency as perhaps, as Kim says, one of the more important things that government does. So Texas requested aerial imagery from FEMA. to aid search and rescue operations, but that was delayed because Noem needed to approve that contract. FEMA staff have also been answering phones at a disaster call center where, according to one agency officials, callers have faced longer wait times as the agency waited for Noem's approval for a contract to bring on more support staff. The chaos has exposed a deeper uncertainty within FEMA about its ability to respond, about its essential mission. Just as hurricane and wildfire seasons have gotten underway, officials with FEMA are saying if the disaster had spanned a larger area, multiple states, the confusion, the delays, this edict where stuff has to follow through her desk onto wherever it needs to be, it would have been a much more severe situation in terms of FEMA's ability to help. So, look, this is not a new warning. This has been a warning that we've been hearing for months. And we've got hurricane season, fire season, as noted. So DHS better get its act together on FEMA. And if I were them, or is that the way you say it? If I were them, I would, I'd reconsider what you're doing with FEMA, what your plans are. And by the way, there are rumblings within the administration that may happen. So, they cut a lot and then they rehire and maybe they refund. We'll see. New Mexico flooding affecting more brown people than white, thus no media, says Murphy Rowan. Yeah, I mean, the flash flooding in the desert Southwest is a real threat, a real threat.
I don't know if you saw the video, but speaking of Murphy's comment there is dramatic footage of an entire house swept away and floating down the river. It's
I did
really
see it, and the remarks of the people shooting it are pretty wild. Do you have that video, Albert? I don't know if
the craziest video, and it's so surprising. So I think that part did get some coverage, but you don't see footage really of the people standing on the banks and who's affected in this case. And I think that there were so many children at summer camp involved in the Texas incident and the staggering loss of life. Maybe
this is
why
in
the
Ruidoso,
focus
New Mexico.
that.
Yeah, that's what Kim's talking about. This is for those just listening. You're seeing a river along the banks of the river, and now you're just seeing homes picked up and shoved down the river.
It's
and you
crazy.
See the effects of these flash floods. It's wild, brutal, and this is where you really need government.
Yeah.
It's just too big a job for the local, state, and community resources to possibly be enough. So, but again, the National Weather Service huge cuts to the National Weather Service and NOAA, but the latest is the Trump administration now perhaps staffing back up. The so-called Department of Government Efficiency slashed jobs earlier this year at NWS, National Weather Service, cutting roughly 600 positions in the name of combating government waste. I mean, again, in the name of combating government waste, they cut all of these essential positions. It had nothing to do with waste. There was no evaluation of waste. There was no efficiency expert brought in. These were tech bros that came in there and they cut like a knife through butter. It was brutal what happened there, and it was reckless and it was wanton. Anyway, now President Trump's pick to run the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which oversees National Weather Service, is saying that he'll make staffing the Weather Service's top priority. So he's going to, I guess, try to get past Donald Trump some of these restaffs that they want to do.
So he's going to fill the positions where they just fired people?
I don't know that he'll fill them all, but I think based on his comments, he's going to go for trying to staff up a bit to bolster what are clearly it's a pretty thin staffing charge thus far. They laid off or offered buyouts to hundreds of National Weather Service staff, part of Texas where floods recently hit. The Austin, San Antonio National Weather Service office was short 6 employees from its standard staffing of 26. And the San Angelo office, which provided alerts to part of Central Texas, also short 4 people from its standard staffing. So, as we mentioned, the critical person who was in charge of getting the word out the liaison to media between forecasters and media. You need a liaison, a way in which to disseminate the information. That person was fired. That job was eliminated.
So
And
this
you see
this
the result.
guy's name is Neil Jacobs, and he's Trump's pick for Noah, as you mentioned. And he said it's really important. He said it during his confirmation hearings. It's really important for the people to be there, as far as like the staff, because they have relationships with the people in the local community. Really, you think? So you fired all the people that did that, and now head scratcher, you realize you need them.
Yeah.
Come on.
It doesn't track, of course, but speaking of things that don't track but are related to weather, you'll appreciate this. Conspiracy theories about the Texas floods. The disinformation around a, quote, weather weapon. Cloud seeding being widely promoted by everyone is this theory that cloud seeders and a weather weapon gone haywire is the reason for the Texas flooding. Yeah. Due to the recent weather weapon deployed against Texas, which resulted in a high number of child murders, efforts to eliminate this military treason are being escalated, said Michael Meyer, who's the founder of an anti-government extremist group called Veterans on Patrol. Hours after that post, a man broke into an enclosure containing the next-gen live radar system operated by News 9 in Oklahoma City, damaged its power supply, knocked it offline briefly. The man also damaged the cameras monitoring the site. But you could see his face prior to all of this destruction that he wrought. And there have been no arrests made, but they're aware of this Veterans on Patrol group, and they think that this guy may be traced back to that. But this is a wild thing. It doesn't seem as though any story is immune from the conspiracy theories associated with a weather weapon. You heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about it in relation to the fires. And even Lee Zeldin, who's the head of the EPA, he's the billionaire in that billionaire boys club, which is the Trump cabinet. He says Americans have questions about geoengineering and contrails. This, as Republicans have spread absurd conspiracy theories suggesting that the flash flooding was caused by weather manipulation. He's saying, Lee Zeldin, he runs your EPA. With a big nod to conspiracy theories, he says, for years, people who have asked questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified, by the media and their own government. That ends today. Following his post, the EPA announced 2 new web pages that discuss geoengineering and contrails.
It's because they got rid of all the real scientific web pages. They're going to put up the questions, like the conspiracy page.
Good point. There's a lot of room.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a lot of room on the web for this. EPA is committed to total transparency with the American public on these topics, he says.
Oh, my God.
And then last month, Governor Ron DeSantis passing a law that bans geoengineering and weather modification activities, despite the admission, his own admission, that it's not happening in his state. He's banned something that's not even going on. It's, once again, it's the theater of legislation. It's taking care of a problem that doesn't exist. So, again, a lot of this is performative, and it's a nod to conspiracy theorists who are a big part of the MAGA nation.
It just gives legs to the ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.